Nick Nanton, appreciate you showing up today, man.
Good to be here, man. I always look forward to our conversations. We enjoy them. We disagree on many things and agree on maybe about just as many, and it's always fun.
Yeah, I love it. Well, one of the things that I think is beautiful about what you just said is many people in life aren't capable of having relationships that exist like that. And I was thinking earlier today about fundamental differences in our approach to life and how we continue to maintain a very close relationship through that. And it's unique, and I love it, man. It's awesome.
I do too, man. I think there, I don't know. There's certainly this rhetoric from the media, and there's certainly people are paper tigers on their keyboards or whatever. But I don't know many people who really get into it about a lot of things. I guess if you want to be disagreeable, you can. But I have a lot of faith in humanity. I'd like to think there's a lot more relationships like that out there. But I guess maybe a lot of people just stay on the surface and don't dig down. But I think we challenge each other, and I think that regardless of, I have my own beliefs. Obviously, you have yours as well. But I think if someone is moving through life with their own set of beliefs, but still trying to be a good, productive citizens of society, like I'm never mad at them. I just have different beliefs sometimes. So I appreciate that about you. And I too appreciate digging in on that stuff.
Yeah, I love it, man. Well, we'll see where we go today, but you have always been an interesting character to me, and it continues to get wild and crazy as time goes on. So last time I saw you, you had 16 Emmys. I did a little poking today, and now you have 22 Emmys. And this is not a long period of time that has elapsed. This is like 6 months or something. And apparently 36 nominations. On top of that, you have done quite a bit in the music space. None of which is how I originally met you or know you. I know you as a recovering attorney and entrepreneur in the truest sense, and drink thief. And fundamentally, that's my anchor for Nick Nanton.
It's a solid anchor. I mean, it doesn't sway far from there. So, just to make sure we give accurate information, yes. I did go, I believe, from 16 to 22 at the same time. I think I won 6 that night. But it was that was since before COVID, I'm pretty sure, because there was just a bunch of messes with all that stuff during. Actually, I won maybe a few of those during, whatever, but I had them when I last saw you. We just didn't talk about it, which is fine. And so, I don't like to be objectified, Brad. I'm not just a number, so I don't just talk about 22, 20. No. And so it's been a super fun thing. I'll start here. Up to a few weeks ago, you'll hear me say this a lot because I discover things all the time, so I'm not that quick. So up to a few weeks ago, I discovered, I would say that, when I was talking to someone about doing a documentary or a film, I'm mostly dealing with business people. And even if I'm doing something creative, when it comes down to the money and the other things, it's business people. I say, look, I'm really a business guy first and a creative guy second. Well, as I really just dug a little deeper on that, I was like, I'm not sure that's accurate. I think more accurately, I could say I'm a creative guy that had to learn how to do business to get back to being creative. And I think it's a really big distinction. And that has been the story of my life. I mean, musician, songwriter, I did a lot of producing of records. And honestly, I think as a young kid, we were immigrants. My family had some ups and downs. There was some financial hardship right around when things started to, right around the time I wanted certain types of clothes and shoes and stuff like that. And my parents were super supportive, but just were trying to hold on to their home that they built. As they built their dream home, 2,400 square feet, and a tennis court next door to it, because my dad had to walk uphill both ways. That whole story, to a tennis court in the island of St. Vincent. But so it was always I always say we had more love than we could spend, but things were not super easy. And I was involved in music and very competitive tennis. Tennis was super expensive. You and I have played some tennis together. Tennis was super expensive. And so I really was encouraged, but I had to learn how to earn early on. And then as I went through undergrad, I did all the things I was supposed to do with education, which I'm thankful I was pushed to do it. I know it's not for everybody. I would agree to that right up front, but got an undergrad degree in finance, finished really in 2.5 years, stayed an extra semester to get the scholarship money. So graduated in 3 years and then went to law school after that. And I went to law school because my parents encouraged me to get a profession. They said, Nick, if you and your brother, we just want you to get a profession that you can do whatever else you want in life. You can always fall back on it. We both said no. He goes and becomes a child forensic psychiatrist. I'm not going to do that. But I knew like entertainment and business, a lot of CEOs and people had law degrees. And I guess I would just say, I'll take a breath and you can ask whatever you want. But I think I write off my law degree all the time because I have my license. I passed the bar. It was miserable, but I did everything. And I really downplay law school an awful lot because I really don't feel like I learned that much there. I honestly feel like I almost quit a few times. My mom was like, dude, if you quit, you're going to hate yourself. I'm like, yeah, you're right. But I really was just trying to get through. I was running businesses I was in there the first year we got Wi-Fi in class. I was running the internet businesses in class and I was trying to dodge getting asked questions. So I wasn't doing my reading and because I hated it. I really hated it. But I will say this, I'm sure I learned even by osmosis. So I'll just admit that I have a bias that I probably didn't learn that much. I probably did. But more importantly, it taught me a huge lesson about positioning, which is what I've ended up doing a lot of my career and help a lot of people with. Once I've been in music since I was 16 and I was managing bands and went to law school. The moment I went to law school, instead of just being a kid at the University of Florida, college kid who manages bands, I was all of a sudden a law student managing bands. And even from then, it was just different. People would just, well, that's interesting. And all the way up through to today, I had a conversation about this yesterday. I'm in negotiation for working on a documentary about like a huge poker player. And they're like, well, what do you think? How to blah, blah, and asking questions. Like, honestly, here's a couple things I've been told. When I sit down to do an interview with someone, I often get credibility because of my experience. And they know that I've dealt with some people that even most of these people like have an affinity for or looked up to or are icons to them, like Larry King, like you can see his tie and suspenders right there. Secondarily, I know that they learn because I've seen other producers who it's not their fault. They sit down and do an interview with somebody and they just don't get a lot of respect because this celebrity, whoever it is, just is like, why am I talking to this kid or this person? But the moment they learn that I'm a lawyer, but I'm here interviewing them for a documentary, they're like, all of a sudden I'm interesting and they feel like, oh, they didn't just, whatever the truth is in their mind, I feel like they go, oh, they didn't just send some kid to interview me. Like, this is interesting. Let's talk. Yep. And so it's been really interesting how I probably don't give my parents nearly enough credit for how much that decision has helped me in life, but I really did hate every living second of it.
Well, I have a lot of thoughts there. One, for sure, I think it might actually, I actually think the label of doctor also has similar weight when you throw it around in a business context, depending on what you do, right? But There's something about both of those labels that all of a sudden you have a different level of credibility, whether it's warranted or not, right?
There were lots of idiots in law school, lots of them.
100%. And oddly, in business, if somebody says they have an MBA, I disregard that much, much, much quicker than I would an attorney.
Yes, me too, because it's not that that's not a valuable degree, but most people, I don't know, there's so much to MBAs that, I read a thing recently that basically like, it's better to not have an MBA than to have one. And that's, it was a hot take, right? And they were making a point. I'm sure it's a valuable degree to have, but your point being, when I meet someone with an MBA, if they truly are a student of that game and that game only, they've learned how to do a lot of things that I don't need in the size of the business that I have. And I don't know, I'm not sure who needs it, quite frankly, in this day and age. But like anything else, I think the law degree in a lot of cases is outdated. I get frustrated. My kids go to a really good school, but like it's sort of unacceptable to me that they don't have access to the best teachers and tutors in the world. Like they should. They should have access, right? Because it's the internet. Like you can go to Khan Academy and find someone to make statistics interesting for free. But I got to deal with a teacher that doesn't get it. Like this doesn't make any sense to me. So I think we could rip on education in many ways of how outdated it is. I'm doing a big literacy documentary right now, which is blowing my mind in the education system. But I think, it's complex and that's why it's an issue. If it wasn't complex, it wouldn't be an issue. So I don't want to just plaster on top. But your point is well taken. I think, the MBA one is a really interesting one too.
It is. Yeah. And so I want to talk about your specific path and what business meant to you. But first, just for the opportunity to expose people to some very cool projects that you've been a part of. What are a couple of the, I'd say sort of higher profile documentaries that you've done? There are some big names that you get to interview that you do things for. What are you working on now?
Yeah.
Those are all super cool for people to hear about.
Yeah, man. So I did Peter Diamandis' life story of the X Prize, and obviously that covered the first X Prize was the first private space flight. So through that, I got to interview all sorts of people. I'd known them before, but I got to interview Tony Robbins, got to interview Richard Branson. I met will.i.am through that. I got to interview lots of rock stars through that. I am currently doing Dick Vitale's life story, the ESPN commentator who, quite frankly, I didn't know how big that story was till I got into it. But I've interviewed so far. I've interviewed Charles Barkley. I've interviewed Chris Berman, Stephen A. Smith. Scott Van Pelt. All the college basketball coaches, Coach K, John Calipari at Kentucky, Digger Phelps from Notre Dame, Mike Bray, Boeheim at Syracuse. Like there's really Kenny Chesney. There's like nobody that's off the Dickie V list. Like, and all of a sudden I just started getting these texts like, "Hey Nick, Chris Fowler from ESPN here." I'm like, hello. One time I got a text. It's me, Dickie V, Charles Barkley, and Shaq. I'm like, did I just get on like the Mount Rushmore of basketball, like through a text? Like what happened? And so I'm almost done with that one right now. There's some big announcements coming out about that soon. So I got that one. I did Larry King's life story. I did Robert Kiyosaki's life story from Rich Dad Poor Dad. Of course, I did Dan Sullivan, a strategic coach. I did Jack Canfield's. Really interestingly, I decided I wanted to try my hand at filmmaking. I made one film, got 2 Emmy nominations and won 1 Emmy in the Ohio Valley region. And I was like, all right, this is fun. Let me do some more of it. I've done more of it, but really I was in the business world and I found this niche that no one was telling business people's stories. And I think entrepreneurs are heroes in their own way when they operate the right way, at least. So I took this really unique position of, hey, let me tell your story. And what I didn't expect was the network I would gain from doing the documentaries, because everyone introduces you to the coolest people they know. Like, oh, you're telling my story. I want you to know how cool I am. Let me introduce you to all these people. And so my I would say my Rolodex, but I sound like I'm 97 if I say that. But like my phone, the numbers I have in my phone are pretty insane, just because when you take care of somebody and you do a good job, they introduce lots of people. And when you don't overstep your boundaries, when like I can ask for favors, but I understand what a favor is worth and when to ask for and how to ask for and how to have tact, how to, all the things that many people don't understand. The world opens up to you. And it's funny, just recently I started getting invited to these events and I started getting texts from different people. And I honestly was like, I've been working my whole life. I've been playing guitar since I was 6, immigrant kid. It's not like my parents are from, the slums of Haiti or something, which I've been to and they're not fun. We're from Barbados. Pretty developed island, but there were things that just didn't feel natural here as we were finding our way through it. And I loved music. I loved entertainment, but I've been wanting to be in these rooms my whole life. And I thought, based on my own self-awareness, my own skill set, my own hard work, my own dedication, my own creativity, I thought I could earn a seat at the table, and I thought I could deliver if I could ever get one. But getting a seat at the table was so friggin' hard. But all of a sudden in the last 6 months, it's probably been longer than that, but I recognized it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm finally in. Like all of a sudden, like no one asked Kenny Chesney, hey, do you mind if I give Nick your number? It was just say, hey Kenny, it's Dick, here's Nick, and it's like, and I've now got a cool relationship with Kenny Chesney. I've been pitching him songs in his text message, and he likes some of them, which is even cooler. But it's been a really cool path of like figuring out what I'm bad at to find out what I'm good at. Filmmaking is the easiest thing I've ever done in my life because I'm so incompetent at so much of it. So I really can't get in someone else's lane. All I can do is do what I do, and I do it. I do what I do the best of my ability. But man, it's so much easier than things that you're pretty good at and you think you could get a lot better at. Like that's a really hard path. And so finding, as we both know Dan Sullivan well, finding my unique ability, you can only do it by finding what you're bad at. And then that helps you realize what you're good at, but what we're best at, what we were born.